This is the Art of Discovery, a glossary continuing with the word myth. And I've included the word myth because myth is not intended to be an offensive word at all. If somebody says something is a myth, it doesn't mean it's not true, it doesn't mean it's not historical, or it is historical. If people want to talk about whether or not something actually happened, that's a different discussion. But the word myth is not offensive at all when people are talking about things that occurred in the past or the way things are perceived today. Nag, persistent fault finding, complaints, or demands from the old Norse. It's an old Norse word meaning to rub or to irritate. Nagging is psychology based. It's bad behavior. We never want to nag. It's not the same as abuse. If it gets to abuse, well, then we have something we really need to deal with. Persistent fault finding. Now, normal, conforming to a standard, coming from the Latin word for a carpenter's square. What is normal? Well, we need to be careful and precise about that. It's very common parlance, but we live in a very diverse world, so that which is normal is not at all definitive. Offense, a violation or breaking of a social or moral rule, or from something that displeases, from the Latin word collision. An offense. When I am offended, does that terminate the relationship, the discussion, the session? Or is it something for me to learn from? How much am I supposed to take, a person would say. And I would say a little bit more than you'd like to take. Just no need to get offended. Oftentimes offenses are connected with anger, and that's a separate issue altogether. To be discussed. Next up, personality disorder. A way of thinking, feeling, and behaving that deviates from expectations of a culture, causing distress or problems functioning and lasting over time. We live in a day of personality disorders. You have a handout, or will be receiving a handout, which is an overview of 10 of the more commonly understood personality disorders. This is not a psychology test, but I wanted us to be aware because, inasmuch as a personality disorder is being displayed, the potential for discussion is being diminished. Personality disorder, it would be noted, is not a mental illness. It's nothing that somebody takes medication for. And it is seldom the subject of self-therapy. It's just there. And it tends not to change. Be aware. Persuasion, to prevail on a person to do or believe something, from the Latin word through urging. Persuasion is not discussion. Is persuasion good? Is manipulation good? That could be discussed, but I would say we really, really need to put limits on our persuasion. Obviously, if something really, really needs to be communicated for the sake of the well-being or harm of another, we want to be persuasive. But put boundaries around this word. When am I discussing? When am I trying to be persuasive? Philosophy. Oh, by the way, for persuasive, obviously using the Socratic method of questions and answers is a way of doing that, and that certainly is discussion. So I don't want to make this two binary points here. That's either one or the other. Philosophy, love for what is true. It's plus. I'm not a philosopher, but philosophy is a good word for all of us. We want to do philosophy. You say, yeah, but no one's interested in my philosophy. Perhaps. Nonetheless, I want to love that which is true and be a good spokesman for it. Politics. Methods and maneuvers, practical and shrewd. Did you know that? Did you know that politics is not just the function of Democrats and Republicans? No, politics is referring to the methodology. And that is up for fair game because that is even-handed. That looks across the board. Personally, I am far more interested in talking about the future of our state and our country than I am talking about maneuvering, methods, and the people who are going to be doing such. I think I can separate the two. But politics, again, coming up in weeks 5 and 6. Prejudice, an unfavorable opinion or feeling formed beforehand, from the Latin word before judging. I would ask, is prejudice ever good? It is not denying upcoming danger. I don't know. I have a hard time finding any social benefit in owning or relying upon a prejudice. Reasonable, agreeing to sound judgment, not excessive. From the Latin words to intelligent explanation or cause. Of course, I always think I am reasonable. Others aren't, but I am. You are not. Well, you are reasonable. So we need to go slow here before we consider another person to be unreasonable. Probably what we're referring to is the other individual is different, thinking differently, focusing on something different, but not unreasonable. But for myself, I certainly want to be agreeable to sound judgment and not be excessive in my interactions with others. Relationship, a significant connection, from the Latin brought back. And this is the point. The point of communication is relationship, which is why venting, a word upcoming, is seldom appropriate. Relationship is a life goal. There are several life goals I hold to personally. Relationship is one of them. Learning is one. Humility is one. Health is one. Relationship, good. Discussion is about relationships. Religion, beliefs and practices directed toward the superhuman. From the Latin word which means to tie or bind. Think of the word ligament. What a ligament does. Well, that's what a religion is supposed to do. Kind of tie things together, not only within our own soul, but also within people. Religion should be very, very interesting. It should be a wonderful discussion point for all people, whether or not they consider themselves in an established religion or not. Superstition? I don't know. That one's not too interesting to me. But religion is very interesting. Beliefs and practices directed toward the superhuman. And it's very easy for me to acknowledge forces, evidences of the superhuman, but that's for another day, another discussion. Respect, showing esteem and worth. From the Latin, looking back. Respect is an expression of love. Respect is a demonstration of being thoughtful. Respect is a very positive word, and everybody's worthy of it. We just need to have an eye to find it. Repulsive, causing dislike or opposition. From the Latin, to drive back. Repulsive. Some things for me are repulsive. I won't tell you what they are, but I got some things that are repulsive. I got to deal with that. Is my repulsivity, I don't know if that's a word, is that purposeful? I don't know. I don't want to be repulsed by individual actions or practices or things that I see or hear. But it's out there, and I acknowledge that. And I might even bring that up in conversation. See how others can help me with it. Rhetoric, effective use of language. Rhetoric has become a negative word. we will be talking about loaded words. They're words used in our culture that are meant to make us smile, and there are words to make us frown and to back off. Rhetoric is one of those words, but rhetoric is a good word. It is a very good word. The effective use of language, uh, from the Latin, the art of speaking, it's akin to oral. Rhetoric is positive all the way. Want to bring it back into the positive side of the game. The right, a political word in accordance with constitutional law and religious morality. When we speak of the right, that is the basic definition. Sensitive, readily or excessively affected by external agencies or influences. From the Latin, perceiving stimuli. I would ask, being sensitive, is it a virtue or is it a vice? Is it a positive or is it a negative? Or is it one of those things where we want to be kind of right in between? Not too little, not too much, in the Goldilocks zone. This factors in dementia, where those individuals are just overly stimulated and overly sensitive to all kinds of things, and makes life very difficult for the surrounding community. Sensitive, a plus or a minus, to be continued. Sentiment, a mental feeling, from the Latin to feel. Sentimental. There's no mention of how I got there. I have things that I am sentimental toward, and that's my business. How much weight should that have in my external world? I don't know. I need to be aware of it and maybe pull it back a bit, so I'm not living according to my sentiments. They're feelings, feelings of the mind. My feelings of the mind. Shaming, publicly causing others to feel dishonorable or improper. This, in my world, became very, very present maybe about 5 years ago, where I would be getting some Facebook messages where people would be saying, and these were viral messages, saying, you just imagine there are some people out there who blah, blah, blah. And they're meant to say, oh my, there are some terrible people out there who don't agree with me. And it's meant to shut down conversation. Shaming is not good. It is manipulative, and you never want to try to shame someone into silence, into retreat through an ad hominem comment or through some judgment or some other persuasive way of trying to make your way prevail. Well, that's going to have to do it for this. We will be picking up next time. So thank you for tuning in. The Art of Discovery Glossary shall continue.